Howdy, I'm Derek, and in this video, I'm going to show you a neat trick that you can use to dramatically speed up your files, make them a little bit smaller, and also be able to share them with people when you're using a lot of formulas that may be a part of a custom Excel add-in, or maybe there's just a whole lot of source data, and sending that source data along may take a while to recalculate or just may make it impossible to send. So when I stumbled upon this almost by accident, I had some external references, which I know are not a best practice, but for us, it worked okay. And then I said, maybe I can take that same approach to breaking the links that I used to do with that one external reference and apply it within the workbook Excel between sheets. So a couple of scenarios where this has been really helpful for me. One is where you have a file like this. So you see I've got a kind of a summary or output sheet meant to be consumed by people. Well, that refers to a bunch of calculations, which in turn refer to a couple of gigantic data sources. I mean, we've got 22,000 rows across a couple of dozen columns, and there's two different sheets that are very much like that. That's a lot of data, and that's not necessarily needed to be able to send to other people. Another example is where you have some kind of an add-in used, and you might see something like this. There's a bunch of just refresh or log on or name error or something like that. Those are the kind of situations that I'm referring to where this is really helpful. So the idea is that we can break references at some point. It could be here on this summary sheet. It could be in that calculation sheet, wherever it really makes sense to you. We can break them very easily. Now, some people think, well, why don't you just paste the values? Well, the problem is you have a bunch that are like this, that are subtotals within the sheet itself. We don't want to break those. We want to, leave those. I mean, maybe you can break them. That's fine. But I find it easier to break the ones that are not those in-sheet cross-footing or summing down the columns type of formulas. So the ones like this one. So what I ended up doing was adding this fake reference here. So book 9999, it's something that either doesn't exist or maybe it did exist and I just closed it out and never really referred to it again. The key is that I'm multiplying by 1 because that's going to give me the same result. And I'm using the if error function here. So if it does not find this reference, it may or may not be legit, that's totally fine. It's going to result in a 1. And that's exactly what we need. And when you are ready to break that reference, you just come over here to Data, Workbook Links, and notice it's right here where you can break the link. Now I'm going to do that in a little bit. Actually, I'll probably use a macro to speed it up a little bit. Now, you can come in here and just add this exact suffix to every cell where you want, but that could be a lot of cells. In fact, in here, it's at least 3 columns times a bunch of different rows, and it's kind of spread here and in here and in a few others. So there's several places where I need to do that. So there's a couple of macros I've been using to speed this up, and I've got a couple of cells here I'm going to apply that. So there's some right here. I'm looking for a formula called add formula suffix. Okay, so I'm going to add that right there. You can save your default here. Notice I didn't even type that, and that's the exact one that I use all the time. Okay, so I'm just going to apply that. So for all of those formulas that's now been added, here's one more. I'm going to add that again. And since I just ran this, I can quickly add that again. Okay, so that's one way. I'm going to go ahead and un-yellow those just to make sure I know that I did that. All right, so very quickly I can add that without having to go through every single individual cell. The rest of these have that. And then in this column over here, there's one other way to do this. Adding them in bulk. So if there are many ranges across many sheets, you can also do this by using this bulk tool here, bulk add formula suffixes. And all this really does is it says, hey, you can add a sheet name, the range name or the address, and then what is that suffix going to be? Now, I already filled those out, so you don't have to watch me do that. Okay, so I'm going to put those right over here and copy these in. The way that I use a lot of bulk macros like this one is it's looking for a specific sheet, this one right here. If it finds it, it will process it. And generally, you're going to enter things like the sheet name, range name, suffix. I've done things like sorting and creating new folders and copying files, adding new sheets. There's all kinds of things that I have done using this approach where you've got this settings sheet driving it. And a lot of times the settings in here are linked to cells where you can quickly update and reuse them over and over and over again. So when we've got this ready, we just run that same one more time. And notice it's applied them over here to our summary sheet. So notice now we have these in all these yellow cells. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and unyellow those as well. Okay, and now we have all these in here. So we could save this. We've got formulas everywhere that are easily broken. But there is one more macro I'm going to show you that is one that I used as well with all these to set this up. And then when you're ready, we've done all the calculations. You've updated that source data. You're ready to memorialize those results. It's breaking the links and saving as a paste value file. That's what that means. Okay, so running this, okay, it automatically broke the links here, and it also saved this as a paste value file. So if we come up here and we look at the workbook links, okay, you'll notice that those are no longer there. This is the file behind the scenes. If I go back into the file that it created here, let's find the right one. This is the one it created. There is now no longer any more workbook links. See, it's grayed out. There's nothing there. And then the resulting values, remember there was a formula here, now we just have values. But the subtotals remain. So it's a neat trick where you can delete those. Reference that same file if you want to. If you have a value that's not date or numbers and it needs to be more text, instead of adding that multiply by, put an ampersand, and instead of the 1 at the end, put a double quotes. And instead it will just add that to the end, and because it's nothing, it won't add anything. It'll just result in that, but it will create that external link that when you break it, you end up with just a resulting value. Okay, so really neat trick that can help you speed up your calculations. Okay, since we took all that stuff out of there, we could then, if we wanted to, delete all these source value sheets because we have the resulting values and the subtotals all remain in there, right? It can also make it quicker to recalculate because we've taken out the vast majority of those formulas. It's a lot quicker, right? And you can also share this with other people because of that. Maybe they don't have access to some of the formulas or functions you're using. They're very bespoke, newer version Excel. You can take this approach to be able to share with people who don't have access to those. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you want a copy of the file that I was using in this demonstration, you can go ahead and do that. I'll put that in a link to the comments below. If you found this helpful, please give it a like, comment on what you like, share it with somebody who you also think would find it helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on other great videos just like this one. Thank you so much for watching. Have an excellent rest of your day.